Order 92 and not just overrules. Not just Order 80. Order 80 talks about general principles, but Order 92 talks about when it comes to money bills, we must concentrate a lot more on the economic and financial policies and the state of economic and financial policies of the state. I am of the view that the government has done well enough. I'm also of the view that the government can do a lot more. The government has done well enough because the government has inherited a lot of debt. Yes, the government has taken some more loans, and people argue that our debt-GDP ratio may be low, but I know that the debt-service ratio is very high, which is why the first thing I think we must do is to look for option to taking loans. At the moment, I don't think we have any choice at the moment. It's going to be long and painstaking. And I think we just have to extend the tax net. So much money can be made if, for instance, the value-added tax is decentralized. Instead of the value-added tax, it is not easy for FRS to take value-added tax in a barbing salon. And this is consumption tax. This is tax based on services provided. That is very important. The value-added tax has the potentials of raising at least 1.6 trillion in Nigeria per annum. I think what is also very, very important is the fact that we should not paint such a very sorry state about the economy of Nigeria. It is not for us to paint a gory state. We know we have low GDP. We know inflation rate is high. We know that economy is growing at the rate it should grow. In Nigeria, in fact, we have 0.8% average on the average growth. Meanwhile, even Senegal and Ethiopia are doing better. But this is essentially based on the fact that recurrent expenditure is very high and capital is very low. And we do a lot of debt servicing too. That means that we must do a lot of oversight. A lot of oversight, a lot of oversight. If the fiscal responsibility has provided that on a particular date, the medium-term expenditure framework should be submitted, and it has not been submitted, it is for the necessary committee in the Senate to ensure that this is done. And we must also realize the fact that the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, World Trade Organization, even the US Treasury Department, the prescription they've given Africa is not meant for Africa. It's actually meant for South America, which is why Chile has moved from third world to first world. But it has not worked in Africa. There is need for us to domesticate and localize the solution to our challenges. First of all, I will agree with the Deputy Senate President when he spoke. We do not have the technology know-how at the moment to fix our roads and infrastructure during rainy season. There may be need for us to amend Section 318, which provides that the financial year will start from January to December. There may be need for us to do that. At the moment, some projects have been done in my constituency, and rain is affecting them. So even if the fiscal responsibility tax is done on time, and the budget is submitted on time, and we start the cycle in January, by March and April, it will definitely rain, and it will affect us. Now, having said that again, I think, again, we must also look into saving funds to increase. The leadership of the executive must be audacious about this matter. They must hold the bull by the horn. It's not a tea party. It's not a walk in the park. There is a provision in the Constitution that provides, Section 162, 13% derivation. And I know that a very contentious provision in the PIB Act is the host community 5%. I will rather, instead of having 13% derivation, amend it for 5% host community that will go directly to the host community instead of the 13% staying in the government houses. Furthermore, I'm of the view, we amend the Constitution, I know it's constitutional, we amend the Constitution. I am also of the view that this government has tried its humanly possible best to ensure that the social intervention fund percolates to the grassroots. I'm telling you, for the first time in Nigeria, I know it was done in the past. I know there have been attempts at social intervention. The essence of governance is not only performing economically, but also socially. The social intervention fund, the only thing I think should be amended, it is a challenge between the haves and the have-nots. The haves will not want social intervention. The have-nots will want social intervention. That is a fact. We must make sure that we amend the empower part of it to increase the micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises so as to grow the economy and generate employment. We must keep employing people. We must also look at issues that border on revamping the economy. Like I said, we must step on toes, we must ruffle feathers. In some cases, it is not tea party. So, what the government has done, for instance, in the area of rice importation and concentrating on rice, I think the government should do a lot more. The government must look at the textile industries, most textile industries, for instance, and I can speak for Asaba, for instance. A major challenge is power. We must look at providing off-grid power to the textile industries. We cannot afford to use grid power for textile industries. If we use off-grid powers, we will revamp the textile industries. That is when we will be justified to ban importation of textiles. Then we cannot just be banning importation of rice, importation of textiles. It has been shown that we must man our borders very well. Whilst we ban importation of rice in Nigeria, importation of rice will increase.
You can start to round up, please.
Mr. President, sir. So I'm of the view that we must start looking into oil palm, cassava, and these other, and deliberately look into means of doing this. I cannot just talk about education and health. This will increase our rating in the Human Development Index. And we must look at health from the perspective of not just building primary healthcare centers. The state should bother about primary healthcare centers. We should bother instead about tertiary education. A lot of our good hands are abroad, Mr. President. So there is need to train people in the area of diagnosis and prognosis, which is missing in Nigeria at the moment. Having said this, Mr. President, I think it's a good budget. I think the budget is still creating foundation. What has taken 16 years, Mr. President, the economy that has taken 16 years to damage, it will take more than 4 years to build.